Once upon a time, in a small village in South Africa, there lived a man named Tom. Tom was 40 years old, a kind-hearted and hard-working man known for his dedication to his work and his quiet demeanor. He lived a simple life, focusing on his career and maintaining a small circle of friends. One day, Tom was invited to a community event where he met Grace, a 50-year-old woman with a warm smile and an air of mystery around her. Grace was not just any woman, she was Tom's mother-in-law. But the circumstances under which they met were far from ordinary. As they exchanged pleasantries and shared stories, a sense of familiarity lingered between them. It was as if their paths had crossed before, and indeed, they had. 20 years earlier, Tom was a young man, vibrant and full of life. He had met Grace under entirely different circumstances back then. Grace was married to a wealthy and influential man in the village, and she led a seemingly perfect life. However, behind the closed doors of her marriage, Grace felt a deep sense of loneliness and dissatisfaction. During that time, Tom and Grace's paths crossed in a moment of vulnerability. They shared a secret affair, a fleeting romance that filled the void in Grace's heart and brought excitement into Tom's life. Their relationship was intense but brief, and it ended as quickly as it had begun. Grace, realizing the gravity of her actions, decided to end the affair and focus on her marriage. However, their brief encounter had lasting consequences. Grace discovered she was pregnant shortly after ending the affair. Fearful of the repercussions and the potential scandal, Grace chose to keep the truth hidden. She told her husband that the child was his, and he believed her without question. The child, a beautiful baby girl, was named Busi, and she grew up without any knowledge of her true parentage. As the years passed, Tom remained unaware of the pregnancy and the existence of his daughter. He moved on with his life, unaware of the secret that Grace had buried deep within her heart. Grace, on the other hand, lived with the constant fear of her past being revealed, always wary of the day when the truth might come to light. Back in the present, as Tom and Grace conversed at the community event, memories of their past affair came flooding back. The secret they had both kept for so long was now a shadow hanging over them, threatening to disrupt their lives once more. And so, their story began anew, with secrets and lies intertwining their fates in ways they could never have imagined. This tale of love, betrayal, and hidden truths would unfold in the most unexpected of ways, leading to consequences that would change their lives forever. Tom's life took an unexpected turn. Now 40 years old, Tom found himself falling in love with a beautiful young woman named Busi. Busi was intelligent, kind-hearted, and full of life. She was the daughter of Grace, but neither Tom nor Busi knew about their true familial connection. Tom and Busi's paths crossed one sunny afternoon at a local market. Busi was helping her mother with shopping, and Tom was there to buy supplies for his work. Their eyes met, and there was an instant connection between them. They struck up a conversation, and before long, they were seeing each other regularly. As their relationship blossomed, Tom and Busi fell deeply in love. They spent countless hours together, exploring the village, sharing their dreams, and supporting each other's ambitions. Tom admired Busi's passion for education and her dedication to helping others. Busi, in turn, was drawn to Tom's wisdom, kindness, and sense of humor. Months passed, and their relationship grew stronger. Tom realized that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with Busi. He decided to propose to her and began planning a special evening to ask for her hand in marriage. He wanted everything to be perfect, so he carefully thought out every detail. One evening, as the sun was setting, Tom took Busi to a beautiful spot by the river, a place where they had shared many happy moments together. He had arranged for candles and flowers to be set up, creating a romantic atmosphere. Busi was taken by surprise and felt overwhelmed with emotion. Tom got down on one knee and held out a ring. Busi, you are the love of my life. Will you marry me? He asked, his voice filled with sincerity and love. Boosie's eyes filled with tears of joy. Yes, Tom, I will marry you, she exclaimed, throwing her arms around him. They embraced, and in that moment, everything felt perfect. Excited about their future together, Tom and Boosie decided it was time to meet each other's families. Tom was particularly nervous about meeting Boosie's family, especially her mother, Grace. Little did he know that Grace was the same woman from his past, the one who held a secret that could shatter their happiness. Tom and Boosie planned a dinner at Grace's house to announce their engagement. On the day of the dinner, Tom dressed in his best clothes, feeling both excited and anxious. As they arrived at Grace's house, Tom's heart raced. He wondered how Grace would react to their news. Grace welcomed them with a warm smile, but as soon as she saw Tom, her face paled. Memories of their past affair came rushing back, and she realized that the man her daughter was about to marry was the same man who had fathered her years ago. Grace tried to keep her composure, but inside, she was in turmoil. She didn't know how to handle the situation without revealing the secret she had kept for so long. During dinner, Grace could barely focus on the conversation. Her mind was racing, trying to find a way to protect her daughter from the truth. As the evening progressed, Tom and Boosie shared the news of their engagement. Grace forced a smile and congratulated them, but her heart was heavy with worry. She knew she had to speak to Tom privately and address the situation before it spiraled out of control. After dinner, Grace asked Tom to stay for a private conversation. Boosie, unaware of the tension, excused herself and went to her room. Grace led Tom to the living room, where they could talk without interruptions. Tom, Grace began, her voice trembling, we need to talk about something important. Tom looked at her, puzzled. What is it, Grace? Grace took a deep breath and revealed the truth about their past affair and Boosie's parentage. She explained how she had kept the pregnancy a secret from her husband and raised Boosie as his daughter. Tom was shocked and devastated by the revelation. He couldn't believe that the woman he loved was his own daughter. Grace begged Tom to keep the secret and not tell Boosie. She feared the consequences of the truth coming out and the impact it would have on their lives. Tom, torn between his love for Boosie and the horrifying truth, reluctantly agreed to Grace's plea. And so, they found themselves trapped in a web of secrets and lies, trying to navigate a future filled with uncertainty and pain. Little did they know that the truth had a way of revealing itself, no matter how deeply it was buried. The lives of Tom, Grace, and Boosie became entangled in a web of secrets that threatened to unravel their very existence. The night of Tom and Boosie's engagement announcement had passed, but the weight of the truth lingered heavily on Tom and Grace. Tom couldn't shake the shock of discovering that Boosie was his own daughter, a product of his secret affair with Grace 2 decades ago. The revelation gnawed at him, but he was determined to keep the secret to protect Boosie and preserve the semblance of happiness they had built. One evening, Grace called Tom to meet her at a secluded spot in the village. Tom arrived, anxious and uncertain about what Grace wanted to discuss. Grace appeared, her face lined with worry and fear. Tom, I can't keep this secret any longer, Grace began, her voice trembling. But I can't let Boosie find out the truth either. It would destroy her. Tom nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. What do you want me to do, Grace? He asked, his heart heavy with dread. Grace hesitated, then took a deep breath. You have to resume our past relationship, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. If you don't, I'll have no choice but to tell Boosie everything. Tom's eyes widened in shock. What? Grace, you can't be serious. That was 20 years ago. We've both moved on. Grace's expression hardened. I know, but I'm desperate, Tom. If Boosie finds out the truth, it will ruin everything. She'll never forgive me, and your relationship with her will be destroyed. I can't let that happen. Tom felt a wave of despair wash over him. He couldn't bear the thought of losing Boosie or causing her pain. But the idea of resuming his affair with Grace was equally unbearable. He felt trapped, with no way out. Please, Tom, Grace pleaded, her eyes filled with desperation. This is the only way. We have to keep the secret, for Boosie's sake. Tom sighed, his shoulders sagging with the weight of the decision he had to make. Fine, he said reluctantly. I'll do it. But this has to be temporary, Grace. We can't keep living like this. Grace nodded, relief flooding her face. Thank you, Tom. I promise, it will only be until we figure out another solution. And so, they resumed their secret affair, meeting in hidden corners of the village, their hearts heavy with guilt and shame. Tom felt like he was betraying Boosie, but he convinced himself it was for her own good. Grace, on the other hand, was consumed by fear and regret, knowing that her actions could destroy the lives of those she loved. As the weeks passed, Tom and Grace struggled to maintain the facade of normalcy. Boosie noticed the tension between them but attributed it to the stress of wedding preparations. She remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. One evening, as Tom and Grace met in secret, they were confronted by an unexpected visitor. Grace's husband, who had grown suspicious of his wife's behavior, had followed her. He stood before them, his face a mask of anger and betrayal. Grace, what is going on here? He demanded, his voice shaking with rage. Grace froze, her mind racing. She knew she couldn't hide the truth any longer. I can explain, she said, her voice trembling. But you have to promise to listen. Tom watched helplessly as Grace's husband listened to her confession, his face growing darker with each word. When she finished, he turned to Tom, his eyes blazing with fury. You knew, he said through gritted teeth. You knew, and you still pursued my daughter. Tom felt a pang of guilt and shame. I didn't know at first, he admitted. But when I found out, I didn't know how to handle it. I thought keeping the secret was the best way to protect Boosie. Grace's husband shook his head in disbelief. You both have made a mess of everything. I can't stay in this marriage, Grace. I can't live with this betrayal. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Grace and Tom standing in stunned silence. The reality of their actions hit them hard, and they realized that their attempt to keep the secret had only made things worse. As the truth slowly came to light, Boosie discovered the extent of the deception. She was devastated by the revelation of her true parentage and the betrayal by those she loved. Overwhelmed by grief and despair, Boosie took a tragic step, ending her own life. The village was plunged into mourning, and Grace's husband filed for divorce, leaving Grace alone and destitute. Tom, racked with guilt and sorrow, was left to pick up the pieces of his shattered life. In the end, the secrets and lies they had tried so hard to conceal only brought pain and destruction. The once peaceful village was forever changed, a stark reminder of the consequences of hidden truths and forbidden love. Secrets, no matter how well-intentioned, can have devastating consequences when they come to light. In trying to protect others by hiding the truth, we risk causing greater harm. The story of Tom, Grace, and Boosie teaches us that honesty, though sometimes painful, is always the best path. Secrets create a web of lies that entangle and suffocate, while truth, though difficult, sets us free and allows healing and genuine connections to flourish.